So apologies that I've been away for a while. I think it's been a couple of months since I've done a video. I just wanted to take stock and get a little bit more thought about what the content I want to put on these videos so that they really add value. Thank you to the new subscribers. Welcome to the channel. And anybody else, if you're not a current subscriber, if you want to subscribe, then you'll get updates on the new videos. If you like the video, then please click like. It's great to get feedback. And if you've got any comments at all, good or bad, or any thoughts on any other videos you'd like, then please leave comments below. So this first video back is a carry on in the series, the training the VFR, the Visual Flight Rules series, and it's the next lesson, lesson 4, which is a local flight, and this will cover the takeoff, the local flight, and the entry procedures for landing. So entering the pattern of the airport, how you approach the airport, how you fly to get in line with the runway, and what the requirements are in terms of how you and where you can fly around the field. This is really important in terms of not crashing into other planes. Many of the procedures are very common to whichever airport you fly into, and there are also very clear procedures about what flight height you should maintain, what distance and separation you should maintain, how and where you should fly in relation to clouds, and all of that is important. So for example, if you meet a plane coming the other way, then each of you needs to know the procedure that you should each go right to avoid a collision, because obviously if one of you went the wrong way, that would not be good. So without further ado, let's get into the lesson 4, which is a local flight. So as before, if you navigate through activities on the main menu, bush trips, and then look for the VFR 04 lesson.
You join us in the Robin as we're backtracking runway 32 at Thames on the New Zealand's North Island. Keep taxiing towards the end of the runway. We're going to conduct a full VFR flight completely in uncontrolled Class G airspace. To begin, we'll depart Thames via the circuit and start heading southeast. Now slow to a walking pace and make a 180 turn to line up.
You need to keep the speed at a reasonable level and slow down quite a lot to get this 180 turn in, and keep it controlled.
Align yourself in the centre of the grass runway and come to a stop. There's no ATC here at Thames, so we'll broadcast what we're doing on the local traffic frequency. Thames traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, taking off runway 32, Thames. Now set full power and take off from runway 32.
So I've got to concentrate here on keeping down the centre of this grass runway, just using the rudder to keep it in the centre, and then once we're getting enough speed we can lift off, just get the cabin on the horizon, and we're on our way.
Raise the nose to the climb attitude. Hold the climb attitude and fly straight ahead initially. We'll join a left circuit after takeoff. Right rudder to keep the ball centred.
So this initially turned out to be quite a long video, about 28-29 minutes, so I'm going to cut to the main points and focus on the entry to the pattern, finding the airfield, and the landing at the end, which I think is the frankly the trickiest bit on this lesson.
300 feet above airfield level, flaps up.
So I'm going to climb up to 500 feet, turn left onto the crosswind, then climb again to 1,000 feet before turning left onto the downward leg 140 to take us out of the pattern.
Now we've left the circuit to the south, climb straight ahead to 2,500 feet on heading 140. We're now flying visually in uncontrolled airspace. At this altitude we don't need to account for any cruising level restrictions, and we can simply remain clear of cloud. We can see the river starting to bend away to the left, set a heading of 150, pointing us between the dark marshland we see on the right and the high ground on the left. If we were to climb above 3,000 feet, we'd need to fly at a VFR cruising level. Heading east, we'd go for an odd altitude plus 500 feet, such as 3,500 feet. Traffic heading west would be at an even altitude plus 500, giving us some separation. Above 3,000 feet, we also need to have a minimum cloud separation of 1,500 meters laterally and 1,000 feet vertically. This is instead of simply staying out of the cloud and remaining in sight of the ground, as we're doing here at 2,500 feet. See the highest peak on the left side? That's Tiaraha town just below it. Take us overhead Tiaraha. When flying VFR, there are minimum altitudes that come into play. Unless we're taking off or landing, the rules are that we can't get any lower than 500 feet above the ground or any person, vehicle, building, etc. That minimum becomes 1,000 feet if crossing a built-up area such as a town like Tiaraha. For really big towns and cities, another rule comes into play, which is the glide clear rule. This means that we must always be able to glide beyond any built-up area and be able to land at a safe place in the event of an emergency, such as an engine failure. It also applies once we start heading out over water. You have to be able to glide back to solid ground for a landing, which limits how far off the coast we can go in this kind of aircraft. We're going to carry on ahead towards Tiaraha before heading towards our next airfield, Matamata. If you look to your right at about 1 o'clock, see the long straight road? Turn to heading 160 and follow the road, keeping it on your left. Follow this straight road and it'll take us towards Matamata Airfield. The road is an example of a line feature. The road we're following kinks off to the left, but we're going to keep heading 160 as it takes us straight towards Matamata. Start descending to 1,700 feet. To enter an uncontrolled circuit, we use the standard overhead join, which has us arrive overhead the airfield at circuit altitude plus 500 feet, looking down onto the airfield to observe the runways and look for any other aircraft. The live side of a circuit is where the circuit pattern is. The dead side is the other side of the runway, which is where we do any descending down to circuit altitude. Keep a heading of 160 to track the straight road. Looking just left of the nose, you can begin begin to pick out the wide grass runway of Matamata with the white buildings to the western end. We're going to use runway 28, making a right-hand circuit for training. Maintain 1,700 feet and turn left slightly to fly over the runway 28 threshold, about heading 130. Keep a speed of 100 knots. When nearing the runway 28 threshold, start a right-hand turn and I'll call overhead. Matamata traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha overhead for runway 28, Matamata. Now we're crossing the runway, we're entering the dead side. Start descending to circuit altitude, 1,200 feet, and turn right to cross over the upwind end of runway 28, near the white buildings. Matamata, Foxtrot, Sierra Alpha, descending dead side 28, Matamata.
So we're going to carry on with a right hand descending circuit until we cross over the other end of the runway to enter the pattern. So we're just coming round back over the runway.
Now we're crossing the upwind end. We should be 1,200 feet and about heading 010 as we enter the live side.
A slight left hand correction before we made a right hand turn to enter the landing pattern.
Now make the right turn onto right downwind, heading 100, maintaining 1,200.
So the narrative said it's a little harder to see on a right hand circuit. Basically got very little idea where I am, just doing the right hand turn on faith. We look ahead to the right and we see the airfield actually in the top right hand corner of the view.
Runway looks about 45 degrees over your right shoulder, so make your right descending turn onto base, slowing to 80 knots. Matamata's runway 28 is grass and unmarked. It also has unusual dimensions, being about triple the width of a normal runway, at 137 metres wide. Make your own turn onto final and judge your approach with this in mind. The wideness of this runway will give the illusion of being low, so try to account for this.
So not too bad on the turn. I think I turned a little bit tight. Bit of a correction left to get in line with the runway.
Power back and flare attitude, look to the far end.
So we're down. There was a point there when I wasn't quite sure where the airport and the runway was, but I think that went pretty well and we're safely on the ground. What a great flight. Okay, I hope that was useful. That's all I've got for you in this video, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.